Okay, you've got a brand new album out, Fight Another Day, which comes out on the 3rd of June on Frontiers Records, which seems to be, their roster is pretty much a who's who of melodic rock, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you think?
Yeah. Oh,
you mean as far as Frontiers? Yeah. I'm happy to be on the label. I think if there's any company out there that's keeping that genre alive, it's definitely Frontiers. And to see bands like Journey or Foreigner or Styx, whatever it is, you see them on that label, and they're all bands that I grew up listening to and was a fan of as a kid, and so to be associated with a label that's still promoting those bands is a great honor.
Yeah. And it's the first album from Dan Reed Network for 25 years.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
I like taking my time writing, you know.
Was it was it a difficult decision to think, okay, now is the time to do it?
No, it happened so organically that it wasn't ever like us sitting down and going, you know what, let's make a new album because we need to make money, or let's make a new album because we're sitting around home and we're bored. It was really, we all have our own careers in the band doing different things, and we were invited to play this show in Portland, Oregon by a friend of ours, and we had such a great time on stage performing that we really realized that it was maybe possibly a good time to go out and start playing songs again, just as no album, and we get on stage and see, you know, what we could do. And we were just laughing our asses off in the bus. We were laughing our asses off in the hotel lobbies, backstage, and just having a great time being a family again. That we decided it was a good time to maybe try to compose some songs and see if there was still a new album inside of us. And so it happened just really slowly, really naturally. And now we're hoping that we're really looking forward to seeing what people think of the new records.
Yeah, because I saw you, I think it was 2 years ago at Download, and you really did look like you're having a great time on stage.
It's insane. Yeah.
And so when you sat down to write the songs, was it the whole band involved in the writing?
Well, mostly Brian James. We would send demos back and forth. Rob Dacre is a really accomplished writer as well, and so is Melvin Brannon. But in this particular album, I'd say it was primarily, the way we used to do the old network records is I would demo stuff in the 12-track at home. Brian James would demo stuff at his studio at his house, and we'd send stuff back and forth and kind of mishmash and try to make an album out of this stuff. It was very similar to this album as well. Yeah, same process, just different corners of the world. Now he lives in Honduras and I live in Prague, and so thank God for the internet.
Yeah, I was going to say, so technology has changed a lot in the 25 years.
Yeah.
So presumably things like the internet made it a lot more.
A lot of Skype conversations and Dropbox and sending demos back and forth and cutting our own parts and seeing what it sounded like.
And once you got the album written, where did you go to record it?
Portland, Oregon. We went back home to our hometown. There's a studio there where actually 2 studios we recorded it in. One is the first studio where I co-produced Rob Dacre's first solo album when he was 19 years old. And the other studio is where I recorded my first demos when I first moved to Portland when I was about 20 years old. And so it's really, we went full circle, recorded all the drums and bass at Falcon Studios, then we went over to the Commune, which is Rob Dacre's studio now, and finished the album there. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Must have been sort of a slightly strange feeling going back to the beginning like that.
It was cool though, because we felt like we were getting grounded and getting back to our foundation of where everything started for us as a band, and we had a blast recording it. I think the only difference was that we didn't have an outside producer like we did with Bruce Fairbairn and Nile Rodgers, and that's both. I think there's the only positive side of it is that you're kind of more in control of everything. But I'm glad it wasn't that way when we were younger, because we didn't know what we were doing. And hopefully now we've got a grip on how to produce a track, when to pull back, when to check our egos at the door, which we wouldn't have been able to do 25 years ago. So.
Right, yeah. And generally the new album, it's got a same kind of musical style that you originally had, but possibly more mature lyrics-wise.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, that's really up to you guys. I feel that I think as a 53-year-old who's now a father, that my intention now is to leave behind music that my son, when he listens to one day, will appreciate and look back at his father and say, at least my dad tried to say something with the music that he did. That's kind of my intention these days. But it's also my time when I spent in India and in Jerusalem. I always felt that there's much more to say with bringing balance into the world. I have a lot of respect for John Lennon and Bob Dylan and people that had messages in their music. So I definitely try to do that, whether it's with my solo work or with the network. And I know that probably the most optimistic and perhaps well-intentioned song on the record is by Brian James, the song Save the World, which is just straight ahead beautiful optimism and idealism, and I love it. And he's asking the question, who's going to save the world? Is it going to be the Muslims? Is it going to be the Jews? Is it going to be the Christians? Which tribe are they going to come from? Are they going to be black? Are they going to be white? And it's a question that should never be answered, but at least he asked the question. And so Brian's always been a big influence on me too. When I write a song, I think, is Brian going to like this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's kind of like my first go-to person. Dan Pred is the drummer, is my second go-to person. If he doesn't like drumming behind it, then we don't put it on the record.
Right, yeah. And one thing that strikes me with Dan Reed Network is you've got a very distinct musical style in that if you ask somebody, what does this band sound like? They'll normally say, they're like so-and-so but a bit heavier. Or with Dan Reed Network, people could say, well, you've got to listen to it. You don't sound like anybody else.
It's nice to hear. I think it's because we always were, everyone in the band is such a fan of different styles of music. I know that Dan Pred and I grew up listening to Rush and the Dixie Dregs, a lot of hard rock stuff. We loved Van Halen's first few albums, AC/DC, Bon Scott, and then Back in Black with with Brian, that was a great album. And so we kind of grew up listening to that kind of stuff. Brian James, I think he grew up listening more toward classical music, jazz for sure. He was early into Miles Davis, turned us on to all that kind of music. And then you had Melvin Brannon, who grew up playing just the funk stuff, Brothers Johnson, Earth, Wind and Fire, the Gap Band, you name it. He knew all the funk stuff. And now with Rob Dacre in the band, Rob knows everything. He can play jazz, he can play rock, so can Brian. So I mean, the bottom line is that with all these different eclectic styles coming together as one, we had to write songs that turned us all on stage and in the studio. And so that's always in the back of our mind of how to write music that appeals to just us as musicians. And if it appeals to people out there in the audience, then that's a blessing.
Yeah, I think that's the key bit. You've got to write music that you enjoy playing, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse than going out on stage going, God, what am I doing in this band? This song again. So
sadly, that you do see musicians who look like that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I see it all the time. And you go to festivals and you see bands that are either beating a dead horse for a paycheck, or they're bored, or they're tired of being on the road and away from their family. So that's one thing that I haven't seen with us since we came back to music, is that everyone is thrilled to show up to the party and to go to work and get up there. And when the tour is over, we're all happy to go home, but we're all giving each other a hug goodbye and say we look forward to seeing each other again. So that's the goal in our lives these days.
And you've got some live dates to for the album launch in June.
Yeah.
I think you're playing London, you're playing Sweden, and a few other countries.
Norway and France and Germany,
So it's a fairly sort of brief tour of Europe there.
Yeah, just usually one city per country, yeah.
Are there plans for a more sort of thorough tour later in the year?
Not later in the year in Europe. We're going to play in America in October, and possibly South America and Mexico, and then we're going to play back over in Europe the first of next year at some point, probably the first quarter, March, April, something like that. And our goal with that was, and I was just telling the other gentleman, that we would like people to know this album really well before touring back here in Europe. and have the songs in their system, you know, so they can sing along and they're looking forward to hearing it as opposed to it's brand new music.
Oh yeah, because it really does make a difference to the atmosphere. You know, you see some bands will play a new song that nobody's ever heard, and the fans just, what do we do?
Yeah, that happened with my drummer and I. We went to see Journey and they played "Don't Stop Believing," I think, and we were sitting there going, "This song was terrible," and like 6 months later, we couldn't stop singing it. So that taught me a valuable lesson.
But yeah, it is that difference because when people have heard it, they've had time to grow to like it, they know the words, they'll sing along.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it more of a celebration, more of a communal event, and I really enjoy that.
Right, yeah. And you've been on tour as your solo self. With Danny Vaughan.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I think you played the last show on the tour last night.
Yeah.
How was the show? How was the tour been?
It's been fantastic. We did this last year and just had such a great time, and the audience's feedback was really positive. So we thought we'd do it again. And what people are getting out of it is the fact that it's not scripted. There's no set list. We start with one song, and either he'll start or I'll start, and then depending on what song we play, we'll mirror that or go the opposite direction of that. And I hear new stories from him every night. He hears new stories from me every night in between the songs. And I think the audience really relates to that it's almost like avant-garde theater where you just don't know what's going to happen next. And we really enjoy that a lot. And we push each other intention-wise. The honesty of each song just keeps ramping up throughout the 2 hours. It's a little over 2 hour set we play with no break. And by the end of it, it just gets to this point of where we're like I would say soulfully exhausted in a way, where we just put so much and we go backstage and we give each other a hug. We don't kiss, not yet, but yeah, it's fantastic. We just really feel like it's important what we're doing in some form or another.
So, are you likely to do another tour with him at some point?
Yeah, we're actually talking about maybe writing some songs together and trying to do like a new Crosby, Stills and Nash type record. Maybe a little more rocking than Crosby, Stills and Nash, but a 3-part harmony record, inviting another vocalist in with us and doing thank you, and doing some kind of I'm still on this. Some kind of vocal record, because our voices match each other so well, and there's such a great camaraderie on stage and like backstage. So we said let's maybe try to write some songs together and see if there's something important we have to say there.
Right. And again, it's good, because it's something that you're enjoying. Therefore, that comes across in the performances, I think.
Yeah, the audience has been saying that. I remember Dave Ling last year from Classic Rock said it was a religious experience, and for him to say that, who sees everything, we're like, okay, well let's keep building on this religion.
So, obviously you're busy with Dan Reed Network at the moment.
Yes.
Any plans for another solo album?
Well, it's either going to be another solo album at some point next year. I wrote a meditation record this last year where it's 60 minutes of music without any vocals, and that was kind of fun for me to do because I'm always focused on lyrics. And here I was trying to focus on, 6 10-minute pieces of music that you could meditate to or just go drive in the country to, and you have to get the intention of it out of the chord changes and the production and the absence of lyrics. So that I might release next year, or doing something with Danny Vaughan, and there's a gentleman from Norway called Åge Sten Nielsen who is a great singer, and we talked about doing something together, and so I'm trying to think maybe Danny Vaughan and him and I together. There's a gentleman on the tour with us right now at the Snake Oil Tour named Craig McDonald, who's a fantastic singer-songwriter. So maybe he, Danny Vaughan, and I, or maybe all 4 of us, we'll do like 4-part Lennon Sisters stuff. Who knows?
Yeah. You do seem to be very varied in the work that you do, in that you're not tied down to everything can sound the same.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that every artist should strive for that. I would love to hear what a Led Zeppelin ballad album, if they got around to it. And you got to hear Robert Plant, for example, when he started doing his solo stuff. It was much more laid back and esoteric and beautiful and atmospheric, and I loved that. And it wasn't heavy-handed, So I think that everybody should do that. I love the fact that Sting's work with the Police is completely different than his solo work. I would love to hear Bono pick up an acoustic guitar and do a whole album of just personal songs. So no, I think it's important to do that as an artist. It keeps you always kind of learning, and it keeps you pushing your own limits. And so I couldn't do this job if I didn't do that.
Right, that's great. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.